The current U.S. puppet leader of the Philippines, Bongbong Marcos, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., he is the epitome of what happens when you have a government that is led by these comprador elites who are willing to sell out their country, and they do not care one bit about the interests of the working class. The Spanish language has the best word for these corrupt comprador leaders. It is vende patria. Vende patria. It literally means to sell your homeland. And we see this with many of the right-wing pro-US leaders in Latin America. For instance, Argentina's libertarian, self-declared anarcho-capitalist leader, Javier Milei, who has been selling out his country to US corporations and Elon Musk. Or in the case of Ecuador, the current right-wing dictator is named Daniel Noboa, who is the son of the richest billionaire oligarch in the country. His family is extremely corrupt and linked to organized crime, and he's also a US citizen. And under his rule, his right-wing dictatorship, Ecuador has become the most dangerous country in Latin America with the highest homicide rate. Public services have collapsed. There are constant blackouts. And this is exactly what happens when you have these corrupt comprador leaders who serve the interests of the US empire and US capitalists at the expense of their own country. If you look at poverty statistics for the Philippines, you can see that if you measure relative poverty at the share of the population living on less than $10 per day, you can see that in China, which has a socialist government led by an independent communist party, the Chinese government has lifted hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. Meanwhile, in the Philippines, this poverty measurement of the share of the population living on less than $10 a day has not changed in the past 30 years. Since 1990, 80% of the population of the Philippines has been living in this measurement of relative poverty. Well, in China, in Brazil, countries that have independent leaders, they have reduced poverty significantly. Another example of a success story is Vietnam. China and Vietnam have been remarkably successful in reducing poverty and raising wages, income. They are major success stories. On the opposite side of the spectrum, you have the Philippines, which is a complete failure in every metric. And yet, instead of trying to reconsider the abject failure of the Philippine government's political and economic policies, the corrupt oligarchs who govern the Philippines are once again betraying. I'm going to be explaining how the US government has been trying to colonize part of the Philippines, which it considers to be a so-called ally. This has been a huge scandal inside the Philippines. For months now, there have been large protests in general about the US militarization of the Philippines. The current leader of the country is a right-wing Trump ally. His name is Ferdinand Marcos Jr. He's known as Bongbong Marcos. And he is the son of the former right-wing dictator of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos, who governed with an iron fist from 1965 until 1981. And he was an obedient US ally in the first Cold War, who was extremely anti-communist, very right-wing, very pro-capitalist. The Marcos dictatorship, backed by the US, stole at least $10 billion from the people of the Philippines. Some scholars and journalists have estimated that up to $30 billion was stolen by this corrupt dynasty of the US-backed dictator Ferdinand Marcos and his wife, Imelda Marcos. And she was notorious for having thousands of pairs of shoes and luxury goods and fancy clothes. And today, his son is the new president of the Philippines. And by the way, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., Bongbong Marcos, is also extremely corrupt. In this new Cold War that the US is waging against China, the Philippines, under this corrupt comprador leader who's willing to sell out his country to the US to enrich himself, and in fact, Bongbong Marcos has given the US military permission to use several other bases in the Philippines. The US military now has access to at least 9 military bases in the Philippines, and this report makes it clear that this is all about trying to contain China. I'm reading here from the Wall Street Journal, quote, "An agreement with the Philippines to establish a high-tech industrial hub is the Trump administration's latest effort to lessen China's dominance over global supply chains," end quote. And the article noted that the Philippine government has given the U.S. access to a massive 4,000-acre site. Now, what is especially scandalous about this story is that it's essentially colonialism. According to the Wall Street Journal, I'm reading, quote, "The U.S. will occupy the site rent-free and administer it as a special economic zone. The hub will have diplomatic immunity, such as the protections afforded to an American embassy, and operate under U.S. common law, the first agreement of its kind anywhere in the world. The 2-year lease is renewable for 99 years." End quote. This is straight up colonialism. Today I'm
and ordered his immediate arrest without bail. On June 30, 2025, the Supreme Court denied Dumlao's petition and other legal remedies, effectively affirming his conviction and exhausting all available judicial recourse. This morning's operation is a clear demonstration of the government's commitment to enforce the law and implement court decisions. The Philippine National Police acted in accordance with its mandate, and the arrest sends a strong message that no one is above the law, regardless of rank, position, or former authority. We commend the teams for the safe and successful implementation of the warrant and assure to the public that the DLG and the PAP is now in the road to serious reform. That even though Colonel Dumlao was one of their own, he was not put above the law. The institution is not perfect, but the road towards a more trustworthy PNP has now begun. Questions?
Okay.
General Natatas will give the backgrounds of this case.
Okay. The result of the operation, of course, we would like to thank and congratulate the community, of course, and the operating unit. Community, why? Because sila na mismo ang nagbibigay ng lead and lead so that we can track the fugitive, Colonel Dumlao, Lieutenant Colonel Dumlao, as well as the painstaking efforts of our police officers who had tracked them down, whether human intelligence, or we have the so-called IT solutions. So, ganyan ang pag-track natin. And we will be transmitting a report and or commit for the commitment of fugitive Lieutenant Colonel Dumlao to the court. After the reversal, of course, meron pa siyang remedy, that is the petition filing in the Supreme Court. However, the Supreme Court ay kinatigan ang resolution ng Court of Appeals. And so, ito na po. We are now ready for questions.
Okay. To remind our media friends, one question each and one follow-up. Ms. Leia Ilagan, UNTV.
Sec. Sir, I believe meron siyang 1 million reward nakapatong sa ulo. Sir, paano po? Sino po ang
meron naman. Meron human intelligence na nagamit. And we are now in the process. After this, we will process it and we will give the reward.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Third Ann Malonzo of Sunstar.
Sir, good morning, sir. Can you tell us the circumstances of the arrest? 5 a.m. po ito. Was he sleeping? Ano pong ginagawa
Yes, he was
niya?
sleeping in a house. The teams, the CIDG entered the house. Based on the warrant, a tactical team entered, broke down the door, arrested him, and then he's now in CIDG NCR.
Ito turn over po ito sa Bucor. Tama po ba?
Hindi muna. Return of warrant muna sa Court of Appeals. Tapos sila magsasabi kung saan siya i-detain.
Wala naman pong gulong nangyari nung pag-arrest.
Hindi naman siya lumaban, but in his possession was a 45 ba? Was a 9mm Taurus gun. Ano ba yung issue sa kanya?
It's another individual.
In his possession was a 9mm gun in a case, but he was not holding it
Was he
during the arrest.
alone? Was he alone?
He was alone.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Karen
Bahay siya.
Guzman of ABS-CBN. Okay. June Veneracion of GMA.
Sir, yung follow-up ko. Sir, yung baril bang nakuha sa kanya, lisensyado pa? Hindi na.
Yes, it was named after another individual and we are investigating it.
Okay.
It looks like he's been there for a while. Hindi namin kilala kung sinong may-ari ng bahay. Pero may informant kami na nakita siya ron. Mataas ang pader niya, maraming puno. Nakita siya ron. Saka namin inakagad yung intelligence. We are investigating as of now. All we know is that he was in the house. The intelligence operative pointed it out and the mission was successful. Yes, kasi pag nagtatago ko, mahirap magpagupit di ba? So, ayan ang naging itsura niya.
Okay.
Hindi disguise yan. Ganyan talaga itsura niya. Ayun yung baril na hawak niya.
Okay. Catherine,
Laptop. Go ahead.
Catherine Austria of Brigada.
Sir, ilang buwan sinurveillance o taon itong si Dumlaw?
Mga 3 weeks. Wedding kasi ng anak niya. Kailan ba yung kasal?
Basta kapot, sir.
Sunday. It was the wedding of his daughter last Sunday. So, from then on, tinrack namin yung movement niya. Tinrack namin kung siya talaga yon. And it looks like he was parang naka-ano siya Facebook Live, yung pinapanood niya yung kasal ng anak niya. Hindi siya umattend ng kasal. Pero nagkaroon ng movement doon sa bahay. Kaya na-track, kaya na-confirm namin doon siya.
Sir, bukod dito sa Quezon City, saan pa pong area unang na-track itong si Dumlaw, sir?
Dito sa Quezon City talaga ang
Quezon
ano.
City po talaga.
Dito siya na-track talaga.
Okay. Alfred Dalizon of People's Journal.
Pero yung nasa amin yung laptop niya, nasa amin yung telepono niya, ipo-forensic examination namin ngayon kung sino mga contacts niya during his the time of his hiding.
Morning, sir. Sir,
Yes.
are you pursuing cases against people who harbored him? Kaya siya nakapagtago.
Well, yes, we will investigate. We cannot say yet, but he was alone in the house at that time, so hindi pa namin alam kung sino talagang kasama niya.